Welcome, Dr. Nandi, and good afternoon to all of you. I welcome you once again to this next series of our talk as a part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which is being celebrated throughout the country. And we are celebrating this to commemorate 75 years of our independence and also the glorious, culture, tradition, which we all behold and which is being helpful to us in moving forward and taking India to a next level as an economic global power. So there are a lot of celebrations all over the country. And we in Skill Council, we have decided to hold webinar series on different topics. And initially we were to conduct only 75, but now we are continuing till 15th August and we'll be holding more seminars. And the areas which we have been covering is renewable energy, waste, water, sustainability, net zero, and innovations. And I can say that we covered a lot of sectors and we learned a lot from our experts. So today, the topic today, it's quite enamoring. When you gave the topic of digitally enabled water, I also was set to thinking, what do you mean by, because water is a very important area and we in Skill Council are really focusing on water management. In fact, most of it is wastewater management. How we can manage our wastewater and what are the job roles, what are the trainings modules we should develop so that we can upskill the people who are working. And the experience has been that these people really need a lot of, they need a lot of interaction in the form of upskilling. They are trained on the jobs, but more information, more introduction, more this thing is certainly helpful. So, Dr. Before I start, I just want to say, when I looked up the literature and when I read that how digital technology, digitization of water technology, it is going to really offer an opportunity for improving the environment. So I think your lecture today is going to be really, it's going to be an eye-opener for us, because it is not only the advanced meters which are there, it is the artificial intelligence, it is the, even the 5G technology I was there, it is listed, that also can help, because once we know the consumption patterns, we know how much to produce, what are the, monitoring mechanisms through digital technologies which can be improved. So I really look forward to this lecture, and I would request Mr. PB Singh to kindly introduce you. And once again, thanks for accepting this opportunity and giving us an opportunity to interact with you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Over to Mr. Singh.
Thank you.
So, PB Singh sir, you are in mute, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for welcoming the speakers and audience. Good morning, everyone. I'll welcome you all to the 75th series of the webinar. The Skill Council for Green Job is organizing a series of webinars to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav as a part of India's celebration of 75 years of independence. In this series, SCGJ is inviting eminent and learned speakers in different sectors on sustainable development, renewable energy, and waste management, so as to deepen the understanding of recent development in this sector. The first in the series was launched on 24th September 2021. Today, we have Dr. Arup Nandi, a very experienced, learned, distinguished speaker, who will be sharing his expertise and experience on the role of digitally enabled water in the journey of sustainable development. I would like to share his brief profile with all of you. Dr. Nandi holds a BTech in chemical engineering from IIT Kharagpur and PhD in chemicals engineering from IIT Bombay. He pursued postdoctoral positions at the University of Twente in the Netherlands and the University of Delaware, USA. Dr. Arup Nandi currently working as a Chief of Research at CSTEP. Prior to joining CSTEP, he worked as the Vice President of R&D at Aquafarm Chemicals Private Limited. He has also led technology and product development effort across multinationals such as Ecolab, Unilever, GE, and Praxair. Dr. Nandi was the head of R&D for the Asia Pacific region for Nalco Water and started the R&D division for Praxair in India. His area of interest include leading research strategic initiatives for product development, manufacturing excellence, energy and water optimization. He is a mature photographer and has a keen interest in nature, inspiring aquarium. Now I'm requesting Dr. Nandi sir to start the presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I will share my screen. Just let me know once you see my slides, and that's when I'll start. Able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, but your slide is taking time. It is loading.
Hello. Okay, wonderful. And I think once it go, takes a while to load is what it looks like. So anyway, while it is loading, thanks to Dr. Dhamija for the invitation. It gives me great pleasure to be a speaker in this eminent forum. And I think in today's world, sustainability is in a way going to be the continuation of all life on this planet. And it is perhaps the most important issue, problem, discussion, which is happening today across the world. Now with that, the reason why I chose this topic is because water has been something very close to my heart, and I'm sure it is something very close to all our hearts. And as Dr. Dhamija mentioned, we are mostly focused on how do we treat wastewater. Now, wastewater, it could be from municipal settings, it could be from industrial settings, but the focus has mostly, as far as the scientific community, the academic community, even the industrial community, and it is not just in India, it is across the globe. As far as we are concerned, much of the research has gone in the past into how do we manage our wastewater and eventually make it fit for reuse in certain applications, or even better, fit for discharge into the water bodies or into Mother Nature. Now, over the last decade or so, digital has taken up our science and understanding of nature and the universe in a big way. We have seen that, with the launch of ChatGPT, there has been much of talks in Twitter, across all forms of social media, while the world is still trying to figure out how do we best our friend existence. Now, why is water important? I'll start to us. If you see this, it essentially contains pictures of them. Now, while we know them well, what I would like to point out is if you see the top left-hand picture, that is the place, or that is the picture of our home, which we call as Earth. And when you compare that with all the other pictures, I mean, every other picture looks desolate. It looks abandoned. It clearly looks without life, except our planet. And what we can all see is that there is a diversity, and that diversity is that we have soil in the form of land, and we have water surrounding it. And that is what has created life on this planet. In fact, scientists, again, this is the oldest evidence of life. Scientists have identified that the first life was started about 3.5 billion years ago. In fact, the Earth's age is close to about 4.5 billion. So the first life has been identified, as much as scientific knowledge is aware, inside these vents, inside these thermal vents in the ocean. And the speculation is that the reason why it started in these thermal vents is because there are nutrients, there is temperature, which allows the progression of the so-called primordial RNA into DNA. And most of all, there is water. Now, we step into the future from 3.5 billion years into the past, and we look at a few of the ancient civilizations. And these ancient civilizations include us. So if you see these pictures, the ancient civilizations that the world knows today is Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, Egypt, and the Indo-Gangetic civilization, which is essentially us. And all of them without any exception have been built essentially around water. So at the center of it are rivers like the Nile, the Indus, the Ganges, the Euphrates, and the Tigris. Those water bodies are existent even today. So really, come to think of it, what is that one thing which has united us with our ancestors who lived on this planet thousands or even 10,000 years ago? It is water, and it is the rivers which convey this water. Now, coming down to the present day. So this is based on data which is from the American Water Works Association, and this is about India, and it kind of originates from one of the reports that Niti Aayog has developed for India in order to point out what the challenges are and what we should do as a nation. So if we see the 1950s and the early 50s to the 60s, we had a certain population, and we also had a certain per capita water supply. Now, what has happened over the years is that India has grown by leaps and bounds over the last 75 years since our independence, not just in science, but also across literally every sphere of growth that is known to mankind. But what it also brings to us is, there is going to be a paucity of water going forward, simply because populations are going to be increasing to stable over the next several years, because there is, healthcare has improved. So life expectancies have gone up. Today, many of us, I remember my father, when he retired from Coal India, he decided that he will, in a way, do other things for the rest of his, he's still going strong. But in today's world, in a way, official retirement, while it happens at a certain age, almost none of us retire. We are literally doing something or the other simply because our health standards have improved. So what does that mean? It means that there is going to be less and less water for each of us. In fact, as per the calculations by Niti Aayog, per capita water availability per person is expected to reduce by 40% in 2050. So does it mean we just sit tight and do nothing? We reduce, instead of drinking, let's say 10 glasses a day, we start drinking or practicing to drink 6 glasses a day? No, that is not the answer. The answer is that we need to do something. And again, this is what we see on the left-hand side is the stress map for India. And this again is based on Niti Aayog. And it just shows us that, today, yes, as a nation, we are doing everything right. We are growing at an unprecedented rate, but we really got to be careful of the way we manage our natural resources, and water being one of them. So the government is working hard as we speak in trying to reduce, their studies of freshwater usage across industries, and then the preparation of a holistic plan for the reuse of treated wastewater. I mean, traditionally, we know that, when there is wastewater, put it in an effluent treatment plant. And once we've achieved a certain level in terms of the quality, then it can be discharged into intermediaries such as lakes or man-made ponds, and eventually finds its way into the rivers. But now we are looking at a second line of usage. Now, what does the second line of usage mean? It means that, the water is treated, but the water is not discarded. The water is again reused or repurposed. So those are the areas where we are working on. And what you see below is a recent publication from CSTEP, which talks about, the situation with water. And also this publication talks about, it covers some of the things which I'm going to be presenting in this talk. It talks about how digital can have an augmenting effect in terms of preserving water. Now, what is digitally enabled water? I think we got to define that first. So when I say digitally enabled water, it essentially means that we measure the water, we analyze consumption patterns. Based on consumption patterns, we save, and we do not just save, but we eventually also recycle. And it is simply because clean water is a finite resource. Now, what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to share a few examples across the various spheres of life today. It is going to include, our daily lives, how we can save water at a community level, at a local community level. It will then talk about, disaster management in water and how water can be more ably stored, used using digital. And I also have an example from the industry which shows that how important water is in playing the role of decarbonization across the industry. And while I'm going to share a few examples, there are many, many others which are happening across the world today. So my first example, and this is more of an example plus a thought, is that today all of us, or most of us in cities use washing machines. Now, washing machines, we've seen this label on washing machines, which says the power savings guide, and the BEE, which is the Bureau of Energy, has done a lot of work over the last decade or so in developing these standards. So whenever we go to buy an equipment, whether it's a washing machine, it's an AC, or it is any other equipment, one of the things that we check for is how many stars, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, or is it 5 stars? Because corresponding to the stars, the numbers are well known amongst the consumer base in India today. And these are not random numbers which are picked up. These are directives which are based on the Bureau of Energy Efficiency's work. And customers are also aware that while they pay a little higher for an equipment which has a 5-star rating compared to one which has a 3-star rating, typically anything between 6 months to less than a year, the money is recovered, the additional money that customers pay. Now, having said so, while we do this for electricity or for power, which has in a way a direct bearing on the quantum of CO2 in the atmosphere, shouldn't equipment be rated I think that's something I will places in certain parts of Bangalore. That's the city where I live. There is hard water, very hard water, and there is soft water as well. Now, we know from science that, when the water is soft, there is a good possibility of using lesser detergent for the same quantum of clothes. Also, the water temperature selection has a big role to play in terms of the cleaning effect by these formulations which are put in these washing machines. And then again, residual detergent sensor. Could we sense the residual detergent that is there so that we just don't, it's not a point blank kind of a thing where after the soap wash, there's going to be 5 washes with water. But on the contrary, the sensor detects how much of detergent is left based on things such as turbidity, changes in conductivity, and the number of washes are decided accordingly. It is quite possible that if we have soft water, and because of the soft water being sensed by the sensor, the quantum of detergent that goes in is lesser, the number of washes or the number of end washes will also turn out to be lesser. And any water saved is essentially water earned by us. Now, in order to do that, what do we as a nation need to do? And some of this are based on what the Bureau of Energy Efficiency did when it started the work or when it initiated the work around things like the whole star system that we see today in terms of power consumption. First job is the creation of baselines and performance levels. The second one is that there needs to be a close cooperation between the detergent manufacturers and the machine manufacturers. Typically today, the FMCG companies manufacture the detergents while the so-called white goods companies manufacture the machines. Now that collaboration, while I have seen a certain level of existence during my professional career stint, that needs to be further strengthened with, of course, a government agency equivalent to the BEE spearheading it and coordinating that effort. Now, one could think of simple things like molecular tags in detergent formulations. So there are certain chemistries which are used in water treatment which have molecular tags or that can be sensed by sensors. Now, could we have similar things in detergent formulation so that there is a sensor inside the machine which senses the residual detergent? And of course, low-cost sensor development by R&D labs and academia. Because at the end of the day, when we buy a washing machine for, let's say, 35,000 rupees, that cannot be equipped with a sensor which costs 1 lakh. So this effort has to go in parallel. So this was at the level of equipment that we use at homes. The second one I'm going to talk about is saving water in homes and municipal networks. So what you see here is the picture on the right is a simple system of measurement of water consumption by apartments. So as you can see, the water comes from a header which is connected to the overhead tank, and from each of these from the header, each apartment draws water through a separate line, and to each of these lines is added a simple device which measures the water and totalizes the water. Okay, so I have a similar setup in our apartment. So I have an app where I can see literally the hourly consumption as well as the diurnal consumption of water. Now, since our apartment was a little old, we had to redo the pumping, which of course costed extra. But having said so, what we have, or the way we have transformed ourselves, is that we have a use. So if I use less, uses more. Now, how to pay more than my neighbor, because, or rather I pay less than my neighbor who uses more water. But simply the being able to see that number, being able to see comparisons between weeks, in a way, motivates my inner self to reduce my consumption. And that almost becomes like a kind of a personal challenge. And, the literature says that after implementation of these devices, it has been known globally, the overall water usage by apartment or home communities have gone down by anything between 7 to near about 22%. In fact, Bangalore, a place which has seen the water table going down and down over the years, has there are certain apartments where they have noted nearly 40 to 50% reduction in the usage of fresh water post implementation of these devices. So in a way, it not only hurts the pocket, it also hurts the ego of the consumer. So it almost becomes a challenge for each of us that, okay, how do we keep our bills low, but also how do we feel proud that we have reduced our water consumption going ahead? And obviously this increases the resilience to climate change, simply because on an average, an apartment with 4 members can consume anything between 400 to 500 liters of water per day, including all their usage. And I'm talking in a very conservative manner. Now, imagine the electricity needed to pump that water from a depth of 900 feet. All that is saved as we start using less and less water. And not just that, it has a domino effect, because this water post usage has to be treated. In a way, as a community, we are saving significantly, not just on the direct savings, but also on the associated savings. The second one is at the municipal level. So this is something which, Portugal and Spain, especially Portugal, has done in the recent past, where they have used or exploited digital. So what has happened over the years is, and we read about it in the papers last year, that Western Europe has been hit by droughts. I mean, something which they had not imagined in the past. They have rivers, water was never a problem. And especially the Iberian Peninsula, which is where Portugal and Spain exist, that has been hit really, really hard. Now, what has happened as a result of that is, countries have been forced to think how they use the water, because it's a bit of a domino effect, because what has happened is, because of this water reduction, hydroelectric power production has had to go down. Now, when hydroelectric power production goes down, in order to provide electricity to people, what is the only way out? The only way out is to pump the power production through thermal or natural gas. And once we do that, we know that we are also putting more carbon into the atmosphere. And now with the recent geopolitical situation between Western Europe and Russia and Ukraine, going forward, the whole water conservation as well as hydroelectricity production is going to get more and more steam. So Lisbon has used digital in order to reduce their water losses as a city from about 6 to 7%, from about 23.5% down to about 7% in a span of about, I would say, 5 to 6 years. Now, how did they do this? What they did was, they already had sensors which were measuring water flow and pressure across the pipeline network. So that measurement was already there because they did want to track that how much of water is going to each of the communities, whether the pressure was adequate in the pipeline. Now, what they did was they connected, or that data was connected to a machine learning algorithm. So the machine learning algorithm took this data over time, over months, over years, and it created digital. What do I mean? It essentially, so if a municipality engineer wants to know what is going to be the water flow in, let's say, 5 different areas of the city in the next 3 months, they can know that based on the past data. So in a way, the digital twin is just a mimic of the actual pipeline network, but stored in a computer. And with this, what has happened is, whenever there is an increase in the consumption pattern or the pressure flow dependencies in a certain part of Lisbon, it is immediately tracked. It is immediately tracked and it is immediately flagged. Now, when it is flagged, what happens is the engineers then dig deeper into it, or they attend it immediately because they know that there is something which has happened which is out of the ordinary, which could mean a leakage or a rupture of the pipe. So isolation followed by repair happens immediately, rather during visits or during rounds for a certain part of the pipeline, let's say once in a week. But then the leakage has already let a lot of water flow in that week. Now that is not happening anymore. Was within a few several of unnatural consumption in a certain part of Lisbon. So what do? They rush there. They first isolate that, then they rush there, they identify and they repair it. So that has significantly reduced their overall water consumption. Now, I'll come to the next part, which is the part about industrial decarbonization. So we've spoken about examples of how it can be done in our homes. We've spoken about how it can be done in cities across communities. Now I will touch upon one of the examples which I came across, which is about how do we digitally enable water for industrial decarbonization. Now, a quick look at one of the, let's say, big water consumers in the industrial segment, which is thermal power plants. Now, thermal power plants are powered by natural gas. They can be powered by biomass. They can also be powered by coal, which is more often the case in our part of the world. Now, this is a publication which shows that the efficiency of power generation can technically go up by nearly 2.7% based on data and based on, whatever studies they have done across power plants. Now, this, again, the beauty of this work is that this work focuses on only one part of the power plant, which is the condenser and the cooling tower. And you can see in this picture that part of the power plant is kind of highlighted with a green box. Now, what is the purpose of the condenser? The purpose of the condenser is that, there is cold water which is coming into the condenser from the cooling tower, and there is steam which is coming from the turbine into the condenser. Now, what happens is the steam condenses. Now, because of that condensation, there's a vacuum created in the condenser. So the steam is drawn through the turbine at a much, much higher rate than if the steam were simply to get into a situation of atmospheric pressure. So the condensers typically literally operate under a vacuum, operate at pressures which are lesser than atmospheric pressure. Now, how does the vacuum, the condenser, which is nothing but a heat exchanger, actually cools the steam that condenses and thereby creates the vacuum? So, if the vacuum is not, the production of power in the turbine suffers, and that can up the quantum of coal or natural gas which needs to be burned in order to provide the same level of electricity. Okay, so if you see on the box, the green box on the right, this is an estimate of 2020 that the total CO2 generation by thermal power plants in India is of the order of about 532 million tons of CO2. Now, if the cooling towers are maintained of saving 15 million tons of CO2 to the atmosphere every year. And the question is now, where does it here is, whether it's the cooling tower or the condenser, there are maintenance cycles. Now, these maintenance cycles are often based on observations. When the operator observes that, yes, there is a significant loss in the power conversion efficiency of the power plant, that is when he or she will flag it to the maintenance department, and they will take a maintenance or a shutdown at that point. Now, having said so, those kind of activities can happen at a very optimistic rate, maybe once a month, at a relatively moderate rate once in 6 months, or even sometimes once in a year, sort of a thing. Now, having said so, within that period, while the condenser is fouling or the cooling tower is fouling, there is a good quantum of coal which is being burned, that is being burnt for that is being burned in the system. So what happens is, again, this is just a picture, a pictorial description to show how the condensers get fouled over the years and how the cooling towers also get fouled over the years. So if you see the picture on the left-hand side, typically the maintenance will be done when it has sort of gone to this stage, or sometimes proactively a little before that. And this is all based on human observation and monitoring. Now, what has been shown, it is there in the literature, and many commercial as well as academic institutes are working on that, is that, data analysis predicts significant losses efficiency even much prior to what the human operator can sense. And once it predicts that, it actually puts those graphs in front of the operator or in front of the operations personnel for them to be able to make decisions, or for them to be able to make conscious decisions. Now, AI and digital is that, the efficiency of a condenser is not just about fouling in the condenser, very closely connected to the efficiencies. The cooling tower efficiencies are not just a function of, how much fouling has happened in the cooling tower, but ambient temperatures, the ambient moisture levels. I mean, just consider a case where during winter, during one of the, let's say, harsher winters in the northern part of the country, the cooling tower water will be much cooler sometimes than what the design wants or what the optimal efficiency wants. Now, at that point, it is quite possible that the condenser is fouled to an extent, but then because the cooling tower or the cooling water is making up for that lack of efficiency, the operator may make a conscious decision that I'm not going to take the shutdown now, or I'm not going to clean the equipment now, but I will wait for another, whatever, 1 week or 2 weeks, once the system tells me that, okay, now you are below the standards at which you would want to operate. So it helps in decision making, it flags anomalies, it almost lets us know the point where we are about to slip off the cliff. So that is how the AI-based algorithms, which learn over time, which identify in a way process efficiency pockets, that is how they help us in maximizing the efficiency, not just in, I spoke about the thermal power plants, but the same holds true for petrochemical complexes, because they also have a lot of heat exchange and refrigeration happening. It holds good for the pharmaceutical specialty chemicals industry, where refrigeration is one of the highly energy consuming unit operations. And so this is definitely an area in the industrial sort of space where digitizing water can greatly hasten the journey towards decarbonization. The last part of my talk focuses on digital twins for water-related disaster prevention. And here, I would like to draw the audience's attention to couple of the recent incidents which happened in India. I know that back in 2018, many of us read about the Kerala floods. I mean, some of us were unfortunate to have friends and family who got affected, who had to move, or even news. Similar thing happened in the Bangalore rains last year, of Bangalore. The part of Bangalore for which all of us Indians are proud of was completely flooded. In fact, I'm part of Bangalore and I have seen it firsthand. So for a few days, there was a significant. Now, different folks blame it on different reasons, but the reality is that, disaster happened and we need to find out how we can disaster-proof forward. So here, I'll just, in a way, recap with the audience in terms of how does flow across the earth. So this is a pictorial description. It's a cartoon which shows clouds. So the clouds deposit water in the form of rain in areas. Now, some of that goes into storage. Some of it goes as seepage, which means that they seep into the replenished aquifers. Some are runoffs. So when I say runoffs, it means that, things which cannot be stored, or the water which cannot of higher elevation areas, and they usually drain off, or they come to a standstill on the relatively flatter lands. And then overflows also happen such as lakes or ponds, sometimes they overflow. Naturally, that is when the level reaches the top of their bunds, or which the overflows happen. Now, what does this result in? Flooding is what causes trauma to. So one of the ways, and South Korea has done it for their river catchment areas. So what they do is, today we have satellite imagery telling us exactly how the land, how slopes are arranged, which are the water bodies, what are the capacities in each of those water bodies, and also at any point in time, what are the typical levels, how aquifers are loaded or not so loaded with water. So now with all this data, can we design a digital twin which in a way describes the basins across urban spaces, across lands which are dedicated to agriculture, has done it for one of their rivers in South Korea. So if you search for South Korea river basin digital twin, you will find a video where they brilliantly explain how they went about it and what is the purpose that it serves. Now, coming back to India, can we combine these digital twins? Because these digital twins are exactly a replica of the actual water bodies with weather prediction. There is a possibility, not it's a possibility anymore. The climate, the weather patterns are changing. Rainfall is becoming more and more unpredictable. So can we combine these digital twins into the weather prediction models and then identify what are the risks to different parts of our land? So combine it with the weather prediction model for, let's say, 2040, find out that there are certain parts of, let's say, Kerala, Karnataka, West Bengal, where it will be completely flooded. Now, how does that help us? It helps us decarbonizing Earth. We can also save our communities by making sure that the communities which are living there today have alternate methods of living, have alternate livelihoods, and also that they future-proof themselves from this occurrence. For example, if we see that a certain part of Uttarakhand could be prone to flooding in 2040, we could proactively take steps to plant more trees, to make sure that we make bunds, natural bunds, so that the water flow is constrained. So all those decisions can be taken by combining these digital twins of catchment areas with weather prediction models. This will also help us to maximize agriculture and forest yields using time-based adaptation mechanisms. So today, let's say a farmer grows a certain crop which needs a certain quantum of rain. Let's say we realize that in 10 years from now, based on the predictions of the weather prediction models, along with the digital twins, the land that he wants more water flowing across it, we can advise him or her at that point that, okay, stop growing this crop, start investing towards learning about growing these other crops. So we can, in a way, shift agriculture patterns and shift use forests and trees to sort of mitigate these areas which are extremely vulnerable. But for that, we need to know the areas which are vulnerable. And that is what these digital twins and weather prediction models, the combination will tell us. So with that, I come to the last slide of my talk, which is about summary and actions. So overall, while I spoke about digital interventions, I think there are very simple ways to save water. One of the things which we need to relook at is the price framework. I know it for my apartment, and I know it for many places, that the money that tanker of water primarily related to the cost of that water. So in a way, the water source, I think that's the piece around which we need to have more discussions. And then the creation of holistic framework in water, because at the end of the day, and as they say, data is the new oil. A little sort of, I'm not quite in agreement, because trying to get out of oil. So I would say data is the future abundance. So digital tools should definitely human intelligence and skills. Then we need stakeholders to move beyond compliance. Just before that, what Dr. Dham, today, we look at compliance, wastewater. Sorry, I think I lost the audience for a while.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'll just add.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah, your voice is breaking, sir.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Was I on this slide when I lost the
Yes.
connection
Yes,
momentarily?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So I think, last and not the least, we also need to develop a skilled workforce with a holistic understanding of the various aspects related to water, be it water treatment or be it the digital aspects of water. And I think that is where, organizations such as the one that Dr. Dhamija is leading will play a strong role going forward. Here, healthy food and fresh water, they are not exploitable resources. They have been given as gifts to mankind. Now with that, I end my talk. So let us join hands in saving every
Sir, your voice is
journey. We are
again.
at the 75th year of independence. So with that, hello? Hello, is it better, sir? Hello?
Hello, hello. Yes, sir. Now,
Can
sir.
you hear me, sir?
Yes, yes. Now it is better.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. So with that, I will end my talk, and my contacts are listed below. So please feel free to reach out. That I will hand it back to the organizers for questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for the presentation. Now, Rohit, can you give rights to Dr. P. Raman?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I give the rights.
Okay. Dr. Raman, you want to say something?
Yes, and good afternoon. It is a very good presentation, particularly on water conservation. And see, basically my question was related to the cooling tower. I think the scaling and all thing which you have put. It is one of the important thing. I'm also work with the cooling towers. That is for IC engine coolings and gas coolings. The cooling tower is used in many sectors. See, the operative loss, the operative cooling tower, operative loss looks, we have not measured, but it looks very less in compared to the mist loss actually, because the mist through the fan, quite a lot of mist goes out actually. Is there any digitization or control the speed and the things, any work has been done? That's what my idea, because the makeup water is one of the larger issue in the cooling towers again.
Okay.
Absolutely, sir. Based on, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a very pertinent question. Now, based on my experience, what I have seen is, it is very design dependent. Now, when I say it is very design dependent, it almost translates to the fact that, sometimes in certain cooling towers, basically the origin of the mist is when the water falls on the packings or on the sort of cooling tower sheets, and the water sprays itself. Now, if the packings become hydrophilic or more hydrophilic, then the mist is usually lesser. Now, part of that can be ascribed to the design, the way the cooling towers are designed, the way the nozzles are designed, the way the water hits the cooling tower. And part of that is also addressable by introducing certain chemistries which make those interactions more hydrophilic. So if the surface and the water droplet attract each other more, the chances of the mist forming become lesser. Now, having said so, I am yet to come across, Dr. Raman, instances where this has been measured, documented, and optimized using digital. But I think that is definitely an area to be looked into.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good answer. In fact, that is the pressure drop across the packing material and the capacity of the motor and monitoring the pressure drop using this kind of digitally monitoring and then making whatever is done. I think that is one of the area a lot of work is needed. I thought that I will just mention it. Otherwise, your presentation was very, very good actually. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Raman. Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
In fact, sir,
yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I was saying that to the question by Dr. Raman, I think, sir, what you say is a very important piece, even for the cooling towers, which are mounted on top of buildings, which basically cool the HVAC systems, because even they face very similar difficulties is what I've observed in the past.
Exactly, yeah. One important area, because a lot of cooling towers maybe if you integrate the mass of water loss must be quite high.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from audience? Rohit, can you give rights to everyone?
Yes, sir. I already gave the rights to everyone, sir.
Okay. Any more question? No. Okay. No question right now. I think Dhamija madam is going to another meeting. So thank you very much, sir, for this excellent presentation. The presentation is a very informative. Hope audience get knowledge on a good topic. Sir, SCGJ completed 75 webinars with you as a special speaker. Thank you,
Oh.
sir. Thank you very much, sir. I would like to thanks to all the audience for his patiently listen and join the webinars. Thank you all. Thank you very much for this session. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, sir.